What's up guys, this is Mike from Terrestrial Imaging, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up your new DroMight Talon drop system. Alright, so before we get started with this setup, we'll go over the different components that we have in the kit. So first you have two mounting tabs, and both tabs will have two screws fixed into it, and these two screws you should never have to remove. Then you have the 6 screws that are used for replacing the landing gear brackets. Then you have the drop system itself with the 2 connectors on the end. And lastly, we have the wire hook or the wire harness to hold and support this wire while in flight. Now that we've identified the pieces, let's go into step 1. So first, we're going to be replacing the landing gear brackets. So I'm only going to do one on camera, and then the other I'll do off to save the time. So the first thing you want to do is remove the leg. And once you have the leg removed, you're going to need a 2mm hex driver or Allen key. And so you're going to have 3 screws, one here, here, and here. And so you're simply going to remove those, and then the landing gear bracket should come right off. And once you take it off, you'll notice that you have a rubber cover over the landing gear bracket, so you're just going to want to leave that on. And so next you're going to take your mounting tab and you're going to line these 2 pegs with these 2 holes, and then these 2 screw holes with these 2 holes. And so it'll look like that. And you'll notice this screw is now lined up with the 3rd hole. And so once you have everything lined up, we're going to pop these old screws out and we're going to replace them with the screws that come in the kit. And the reason for that is because the mounting tab adds an extra little bit of thickness, and so these new screws are the right size. So we're going to line everything up. There's screws in and tighten them in. Alright, so really important while you're tightening these screws, you're going to want to tighten each one a little bit at a time and try not to over tighten them so that way you don't strip the threads. And then also too, one last point here, you're going to want to make sure that these 2 screws are facing outwards like you see here, because this is what the rest of the device will mount to. Alright, so lastly for step 1, you're just going to want to take the 6 black screws that you just removed, put them in a bag, and then save them with your aircraft just in case you want to replace them. And so you'll see I have both the mounting tabs on either side with the screws facing outward and the legs installed. Okay, so now for step 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Talon and we're going to mount it to the mounting tabs that we just installed. So if you look on the side of this mounting bracket over here, we have a large hole and then a little indent upward. And so this larger hole will slide right over the 2 screws that are sticking out of the mounting tabs. And so we're going to, and then they have them on either side. So we're going to simply slide it over, mash them up like that, and pull it down. And so we're going to do that on both sides at the same time. And then once you have it on, you're going to hold it down and you're going to simply tighten these 4 screws with the included hex driver. So you're going to do both sides. And we're not going to worry about the wire just yet. And this shouldn't be too difficult. Should just be a few turns. And there you go. You have the Talon mounted to the mounting tabs. Alright, so step 3 is simple. We're just going to take the wire management bracket and we're going to install it onto the back left arm, again if you're facing the back of the aircraft. And so the hook part, we want it facing outward. So we're going to put this half against the arm and the other half fits these keyways right here. And so you just slide them together, click them in place, and then you can slide it back right at the end. And then we're going to take the wire and you could pull this hook down a little bit to get it in if you need to. And once you get it in, you're good to go, and then you're ready for the next step. Now for step 4. So really important for this step, we're using a DJI Matrice 210 version 1. So this Talon is compatible with the version 1 or version 2. So for the version 1 versus the version 2, there's going to be a slightly different way you plug in the black cable in the back. The power cable is going to be exactly the same, but so for the 210 version 1, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the XT30 connector. Again, very straightforward, only one way that could go. And then over here you have the extended port, the expansion port. So there's a bunch of different pins. What we're going to do is we're going to use the second row from the right, not counting that single pin. So the second row right here, and we're going to take the wire and we're going to have, or the plug, and we're going to make sure that the yellow wire is facing up and the black wire is facing down. So we're going to plug it in just like that. And with the version 2, which is really important, it'll actually be the opposite. So the black will be up and the yellow will be down on the version 2. And again, just one more time, version 1, yellow up, black down, and we're using the second row of pins from the right, excluding that single pin. Now for the final step, step 5, we're going to program the Cendence controller to be able to remotely activate the Talon in flight. And so real quick too, this cable right here, don't worry about that. That has nothing to do with the Talon or the setup. This is simply so that way we could record the screen and show you what we're doing. And so the first step in this process is to get the controller, tablet, Crystal Sky, whatever you're using, and the drone turned on and all connected. And then we're going to go into the DJI Pilot app. Now we're in the DJI Pilot app. And so where we're going to go is the top right settings, and we're going to stick in flight controller settings, and we're going to go to the very bottom and we're going to hit extended I/O options. Next, we're going to hit the arrow next to port 2, and we're going to make sure that it's set to GPIO and push-pull output and high. And then we're going to go into remote control settings, and we're going to pick one of the buttons to set as our hot button for the drop. So I'm going to pick the BD button. On the left, we're going to pick extended I/O, and then port 2 on the right, apply, and then we're going to go back, and then we're going to go we're going to update, and then once you see the settings change successfully, we're going to go back again, and then we're going to save the current configuration, and then you'll give it a name. And so you're going to want to name it right the first time, because we have not found a way to edit the names once you've made them. So we're just going to call this DroMight Talon activation. Done. Okay. And so that created the drop for the BD button for the Talon. And then one last step before you actually go and fly, you go to Manage Local Configurations. You hit DroMight Talon activation. You hit Load Configuration. Hit OK. Give it a second. And then you could exit out of the settings. And now your BD button, if you hit it 3 times, should activate the DroMight drop. That's it for the one-time setup and installation you're going to have to do for the DroMight Talon drop system when you first get it. So now I'm going to simulate a new day, new mission. So the drone and controller were just off. We're turning them back on and connecting them to each other. So while the drone's firing up, you can use the button on the back of the Talon to load your payload. And so just one press opens it, another press closes it, and then you got your payload in there. And so once the drone and the controller are connected to each other, we go into the settings in the DJI Pilot app. We go where we just were, the flight controller settings, and then extended I/O options. We hit Manage Local Configuration. We hit the DroMight Talon activation, and we load that configuration. And so that's the only step you should need to take prior to each flight. Except of course if you're mounting the DroMight Talon again after removing it from the last mission. And then again, once you have that payload configuration uploaded, you can go on your controller to whichever button you chose. And again, we chose the BD button. And if you hit it 3 consecutive times, it should activate the drop. One last thing before we wrap up, I just want to emphasize the 3-button press. So the purpose of this 3-button press is so that way you don't accidentally drop the payload in flight. And the way we did that was by having a very specific timing for those presses. So for example, if I hit the button 3 times really quickly, so 1, 2, 3, it won't drop the payload. And oppositely, if I hit the button 3 times very slow, it won't activate it either. So, 1, 2, and then 3, it shouldn't drop it. And so the way to drop it, you just hit it 1, 2, 3, and then it should drop the payload. So again, we did that so that way you can't accidentally drop it in flight. So it's a really nice added safety feature. Wraps up this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. And thank you for purchasing your DroMight Talon drop system. If you need any help or support, visit us online at www.terrestrialimaging.com.